All right, guys, so a tight fit between these three pieces is definitely what we're going for. Now, not so tight that, of course, it can't move, but definitely not so loose that it falls apart like this example we started with. So piece number 2 goes inside piece number 1, and it won't quite fit yet. It fits good that direction, but it doesn't fit up and down. Then piece number 3 is going to go on top of piece number 1. So I'm going to check that. And that's also a little bit tight still. Once piece number 3 comes into piece number 1, it's going to come inside piece number 2 like this. And that is actually pretty good. There's a couple ways that you can start to open things up. Primarily, we're going to start with sandpaper and one of these. This is a sanding stick that's designed to fit into these notches. So it's just a piece of wood that I cut to the dimensions that would be useful for you. You're going to take a piece of coarse sandpaper and gently wrap it around there, and you can fit it inside and start, really opening up some of those joints on the inside, okay? This might take a little bit of time. You might get a little bit tired of this, but keep at it because this is what's going to make your puzzle really nice. You might be tempted to jump on a scroll saw to try to open these up, and unless it's really bad, I recommend you not doing this. So if you know like that piece number 2, here it is, piece number 2 goes inside piece number 1 like this, I can hold it there and then take your pencil, and I know like it's gonna fit pretty okay there. It needs to widen up maybe over here a little bit. You can take your pencil there, like I know this is where it needs to fit, and you can trace the area. And those are the areas that you need to focus on. That's the area that you need to kind of work up to. So actually that was really helpful because now I can see that here on this side over right here and back up there and up there. So on this piece I know I need to really focus on that. But we need to look at this connection right here. How does that fit? So it's pretty tight. I think just general sanding inside there though will allow it to open up. You can see there's a spot right here that probably got missed. But we're just going to do some general sanding like this on the inside of those notches and keep checking it as you go because you don't want them to get too big and too loose, right? So this is the fine-tuning stage. This is my puzzle after I've sanded the inside joints. Everything is fitting together. This puzzle is also called the wooden knot. So you want it to be really tight. So you can see, like I have to really push those pieces apart. I think that looks pretty good. Now, it might be just a little bit too tight, but I don't want to change the way that the pieces fit together. So what I can do is I'm going to sand the surface, these surfaces right here. This is a good thing for 2 reasons. It's going to hopefully help the puzzle slide just a little bit smoother, and it's going to prepare the surface for what's called our finish. For this puzzle is actually put some linseed oil on it. Sometimes people want to paint their puzzle, but painting is really not a good idea because it will change the thickness of your wood and therefore it will change the way they fit together. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare this for finishing. So I'm in the middle of doing some finish sanding and just want to give you a few pointers. You always need to sand with the grain of the wood. So you can see the grain. What I've got here is a full sheet of medium grit, which is 120 grit sandpaper, and we're going to sand like this. Okay class, we have a whole other lesson on wood finishes. What I'm going to show you right now is how we're going to actually finish particularly your 3-piece puzzle. Here I have boiled linseed oil. Now we should probably only need about this much, and that's probably too much. But what you do need to do is go in order here. Now I've got this set up over here as a damp rag, a linseed oil rag, and a dry rag. And these are 3 different steps that you need to do. So first of all, the damp rag, guys, is to remove any sawdust that's going to remain on your project. And the linseed oil rag is the rag that you're allowed to dip into the linseed oil. And then the dry rag, you don't want to ever dip that into the cup of linseed oil, but you will use it in about 10 minutes to wipe off any extra linseed oil. I have been sanding, so I'm going to start with step number 1. The damp rag, very lightly. I'm not trying to get my project wet. I'm just trying to remove the sawdust that might be inside the pores of the wood. So once you've done that, you're gonna need to just let it air dry for 3 or 4 minutes. So we'll take a break. Please always put your rags back up here when you're done with them for the next person. If there is a line, never leave your projects over here on this table. A lot of times students want to leave their projects here. This is not a good spot. I have other classes, they also use this area. Your project could get stolen or broken or whatever. Do not leave your stuff over here. If you are going to just let it air dry for a second, stand near it, don't wander off or start doing something else, okay? Stay with your pieces at all times. There's a lot of other students doing the same project right now, and I don't want yours to get lost. Okay, so our project is air dried. I'm going to move on to the next step, linseed oil. This rag doesn't have any oil on it yet. You see this rag here, it probably will have oil on it, and that's okay. You don't need to soak the rag or saturate the rag, just get the corner wet and just work a little bit at a time. And the wood's gonna actually absorb it. And you're gonna do 2 different layers of oil, and I recommend doing them a day apart. So you're gonna do this process today, linseed oil, and then in a few minutes we'll come back with a dry rag. And then tomorrow, when the oil is dried and totally absorbed into the wood, you can do the linseed oil and dry rag again. And then you will be done. So each piece needs to have 100% coverage. So that means the end grain on both sides, and then on the inside of the notches, and that can be a little bit tricky, but you can definitely do it. I've got 100% coverage, including on the inside. As you can see, it changes the look, and it will change the feel of the piece of wood as well. It's a very simple finish. It's a nice finish. It gives it a nice natural look. It doesn't do an amazing job of protecting the wood, but you don't really need to protect a 3-piece puzzle from the elements. So after a few minutes, imagine 5 minutes has gone by, because you do want to give the oil some time to absorb. We're going to come over here and grab the dry rag. And this is a much faster step. You just want to rub that dry rag over the wood, just in case there is any excess oil, and then you're good to go. Okay, leave this in your locker. You could leave it in your backpack. It won't really mess up anything in your backpack. It's not a very intense product, linseed oil, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. But again, please make sure that you put these rags back where they belong up here, because that is going to be for the next person. If you have all your puzzle pieces with 2 coats of linseed oil on them, you need to go ahead and put those pieces together. So piece number, I'm not going to tell you exactly. You should be able to figure it out at this point. It's on the videos, but putting the puzzle together is part of your grade. So if you bring the puzzle to me and it's finished, put together state, that's an automatic, I think it's on the rubric 15 or 20 points. And then you'll be well on your way to getting an excellent grade on this project. All right, so that's my puzzle fitting together. I will go ahead and put some more oil on it in a minute, but yeah, this is what I'm looking for, a puzzle that doesn't rattle around when you shake it. If you bring me a puzzle like this, you're probably going to get a very good grade. All right, guys? Hope you enjoyed this project.